Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. The political deadlock in India's northeastern state of Nagaland is showing no signs of letting up, with neither of the warring factions in the ruling Naga People's Front appearing in the mood to relent. Governor P.B. Acharya has asked Chief Minister Shirozili Leizitsu to prove his majority on the floor of the Assembly on the 15th of July. However, at the heart of the crisis is the power struggle between Leizitsu and the state's former Chief Minister T.R. Zielang. It all started in January 2017 with civil unrest in the state over the NPF government's then headed by Zielang move to hold civic polls with 33% reservation for women. The move led to a statewide bandh with a demand for Zielang's resignation. Following this, the ruling NPF's MLAs elected Leizitsu as a non-MLA chief minister and new leader of the legislative party on the 22nd of February. The state witnessed a fresh bout of political crisis on the 8th of July, with a majority of NPF legislators gunning for the ouster of Leizitsu and Zielang staking his claim to form the government. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will take a closer look at the political crisis in Nagaland. Joining me on the program today are Balmiki Prasad Singh, former governor; Deepak Dewan, editor, Northeast Sun; Professor Subrata Mukherjee, political analyst; and Monalisa Changkiji, editor, Nagaland page. I'd like to start with the Monalisa on the program today and get an update really from Nagaland to see what exactly is happening there. What is the latest that is happening as far as the political crisis in Nagaland is concerned, Monalisa?
Well, as of now,
well, we seem to have lost the line there. I think with Monalisa, we'll try and reconnect with her and take the discussion forward. But, you know, Mr. Singh, I'd like to come to you now. You know, the governor, P.B. Acharya, has asked, you know, the incumbent chief minister to prove his majority on the floor of the House by the 15th of July. Considering all that has happened in Nagaland over the last few days, is that the right thing to do, the right move by the governor?
Look, somebody asked me this question the other day, and I told him that first it was a political dust storm when your eyes get blocked, and you have to act in a manner so that it does not become a political crisis. And when you are into that mold, as you rightly described, now it is a political crisis, then you have to see that it does not degenerate into a constitutional crisis. Because you are dealing with a group of leaders who have styled themselves as Nagaland People's Front.
From the same party.
Of the same party. And you are also dealing, it is a loose conglomerate. It is a party, but it is a loose conglomerate. And you are dealing with a society which has at least 17 tribes. And each tribe has its own personality, its own customs, you know, and then we have problems within the tribe, but more intertribal problems. So one has to see how to handle it. There are 2-3 ways of doing it. One is to call the present chief minister, and he is a senior leader. Of course, he didn't contest the elections in 2013.
Yes.
But earlier he was a member of the assembly. He was also a minister. And he is the senior most among the political figures that we have in this NPF. So it was, I don't know if that has happened, because press reports indicate that the governor was here or he was in Arunachal or something like that. The second thing which was required was that you allow various groups of people which are there in Dimapur, which are of course in Kohima, to allow to come and see the governor. because dust storms settle down. And if this problem is resolved within the NPF, it is good for the state, it is good for the country, it is good for political stability. I don't know unless any one of my colleagues have that information. Have all these things been done, or these things remain to be done?
Sure.
Because if the present Chief Minister has lost the support of the majority, which he seems to have lost, it should be possible to resolve it that way within the party.
Right.
Because the party has not a split.
The party hasn't split. The party is still together.
Intact.
Yes. Yes.
So if the party is not a split, you know, if the party gets a split, you have also a constitutional crisis.
Sure.
That's what I said. Political dust storm converging into a political crisis. It could have been settled down as dust storm.
Very well explained and you know, put into picture by you. Let me go across to Monalisa now, who's rejoined us on the phone line from Nagaland. You know, Monalisa, could this political crisis have been averted?
Yes, I think it could have been averted, especially seeing that there are just a few months for the assembly elections. So they could have talked among themselves and come to some kind of an understanding till for the next few months. But it looks like there is a lot of egging to create this situation within the ruling party in Nagaland by forces outside the party.
Okay.
And because, everybody's keeping their eyes out for the next, for the assembly elections to be held, say, January, February next year, early next year. So there is some kind of, to me, it looks like there is some kind of, plan, plan of action, some kind of agenda to create, turmoil within the ruling party. And you must remember that we just don't have an opposition in Nagaland.
Sure.
So it is all within them. In the assembly. So to create some kind of turmoil to pave the way for other parties to come to power.
Okay. Okay. Deepak Dewan, just to add to what she has said, what Monalisa has said, who stands to benefit the most from this current situation that is developing in Nagaland? And are external forces at work?
Well, I don't see any external force there. It is the internal fight of the NPF. The former CM, Monalisa, I would ask her to correct me if I'm wrong. See, what had happened was when Mr. Shoruzile took over as a CM in February, when, as you mentioned in your introduction, that there was a mass protest by the people. Again, when the two youth, they were shot dead by the security forces. They were shot dead because they came out on streets to protest against government's decision, which they had agreed to sort of do away with the election for the time being. In writing, the Home Minister had written, but the cabinet decided that we will go ahead with the election. So that's how the people came out on the street, and everything was on standstill in Nagaland. So that time, it was a face-saving formula decided by the NPF leaders, was that let the Chief Minister step down, let Mr. Shoruzile take over. And it was an internal understanding that after 6 months, he will hand over his post to Mr. T.R. Liang again. That did not happen. And what happened is on June 27th, Mr. Krehu Lechetu, who is the son of the present Chief Minister, who was holding the ML of Northern Angami 1 seat, he resigned from his seat to pave the way for his father to contest for which the elections will take place on 29th of July.
Right.
He was appointed as advisor of the cabinet rank post on June 27th. And then whatever the things were being seen by the opponents in the party against Mr. Shorozele, that came out in the open as a revolt against the son's appointment as a cabinet rank advisor. In fact, the 41 MLAs signed and issued a statement saying that father and son are doing this. That was the open revolt. I think that was a sign when probably the chief minister should have understood that things are not in his favor
and walked away.
And now all this has happened on July 8th. Mr. Shorozele had sacked 11 parliamentary secretaries, 4 ministers, and again on 9th, he's suspended MLAs, including the former chief minister, T.R. Zeliang and all that.
So he has dug his heels in and wants to stay. And
governor has been all along away to his native place in Maharashtra. In fact, today he is returning by this evening to attend President's dinner, which is being hosted by the President before he relinquishes the office to all the governors. So he is coming today, and probably Mr. T.R. Zeliang would also be landing up in Delhi, we have heard. And then it will transpire what action or what would be the next move. But the thing is, there are two ways. Either Mr. Shorozele himself agrees for a floor test, otherwise it requires a no confidence motion notice from the opponents with these signatures of 10 MLAs. That has to be submitted to the speaker. That would be the move next.
Indeed. That's what's likely to happen next is what you're suggesting. But Professor, let's look at the larger picture really in the Northeast. Political turmoil has been brewing right throughout. We saw what happened in Arunachal Pradesh. We saw what happened in several of the other states as well. And now Nagaland, this is 2.0 in Nagaland this time around. So, what's the problem really?
You see, the problem is asymmetric federalism. And what happens is that there is a conflict in the local culture with the larger national one in the context of a lot of localism. For instance, that 30% reservation. The Supreme Court directive, the central government wishes can all become inoperative by the customary law. And then of course the larger societal pattern, patriarchy and all that come in, because Nagaland is not exactly a great example of gender parity. Now you see, what happens in that kind of a situation is that the local politicians enjoy quite a bit of relative autonomy, and so they can be independent either way. For instance, one character of Northeast politics is that whosoever rules at the center automatically becomes your partner, and that is also because of the statist nature, that lot of grants, lot of money flow, and also the fact that the entire political culture operates at two levels. One is the tokenism with the center. Because of the lack of numbers, Northeast exactly is not a very important player in national politics. That's why we find that now there is a block of 24 MPs that, including Assam, that they are united in bringing the voice of the Northeast and Assam. But that is another point, that is also a loose coalition. Another point is that what we find is, since there is no viable opposition, there is nothing called a standardized party system. Party system itself is very weak in India, but it's much more weaker in the states like Nagaland. And there what happens is that since there is no viable alternative, and here I like to point out a very important point of political discourse, is that politics can be restricted, it cannot be eliminated. In that kind of a situation, the only alternative is to break the party or to capture the party in a coup-like situation. And that's why what is happening in the Northeast is explicable in the terms of asymmetric federalism, the relative autonomy of the leaders, no viable party system, and also I like to also point out that the indifference of the central national parties to really get into the local politics. Remember, at one time at least there was a Praja Socialist Party in Kashmir, but now we don't hear anything like that anywhere.
Sure.
So what happens is that creates some kind of a diarchy, and the problem is becomes much more acute in the context of lack of intra-party democracy.
Right.
But
yeah.
Here
Quickly,
I would like to clarify one thing. It's not that the Nagaland never had opposition in this session. Till last year beginning, there were 8 Congress MLAs. Congress party could not hold them in their flock.
Right.
The entire flock, including the office bearers, merged with NPF. It's same is the case in Arunachal, if you see. See, if you read the letter of late former Chief Minister Kaliko Phul, he said he camped in Delhi for 3 months. Nobody in the AICC gave him appointment, or no leader met him. So the thing is, whatever has happened in Arunachal is purely the failure of the party leadership in Delhi.
Sure, right. You know, Mr. Singh, I'd like to come to you and talk about another aspect that has been briefly touched upon, but we haven't really spoken much about it. You know, have the aspirations really of the people of Nagaland, or for that matter on the Northeast as a whole, been met by some of these political parties and the politicians in that region?
I must tell you that 2 things are very important. Or rather 3 things I will put it, 3 things. The rate of economic growth in each state of the Northeast is higher than the national average. 2, the level of literacy in each of these states is again higher than the national average. And third, the point that you asked for, aspirational class. The Naga boys or Manipuri boys and girls or Khasi boys and girls, take any class, they are employable not only within the region but even outside. They do a good job. So their aspirations are high. You go to Bangalore, go to Mumbai or see in Delhi. Now what has happened here in this case, and I fear that the venerable senior Chief Minister Lisso, he wanted to bring in his son, because the aim is not of next 6 months, the aim is beyond 6 months after elections. And this kind of, some thinking at the back of somebody's mind of political dynasty comes into the picture. And that gets confirmed. I was not entertaining this idea, but that got confirmed today to me when the Chief Minister, while filing the nomination papers, said, "My son will be a standby candidate." Now, this is a new concept.
Yes, it is.
Now, in this situation, political dynasty is something which is the fashion of the day everywhere.
Right.
Is finding new expressions in the political lexicon of a standby candidate. This is an interesting word. So what I fear is that in next few days we have to be patient.
Right.
We have to talk to the different groups of people, tribal leaders. We have to talk to the women also. The women organizations are very strong in Kohima.
On that note, I'd like to go to Monalisa and find out what is it that the people really think and what is it that the people are saying. Monalisa, what is the reaction, what is the sense that you're picking from the people, in Nagaland about this whole political crisis?
Total disgust. Total disgust. But first, I would like to clarify certain things. When I said outside forces, I meant outside the assembly. But then, thinking about it seriously, definitely our, political dispensation is such, which one of our speakers have so eloquently said, is that there is a lot of space and scope for a lot of people from outside. You know, when I say people, I mean individuals, organizations, groups, even factions, to have a very strong say in, you know, in politics in Nagaland. So that is one. The other one I would like to clarify is that, you know, when we had that terrible riot in January, February against the women's reservation in our ULBs, 2 young people were killed at Dimapur and one at Longlang. But as far as the Dimapur, you know, incident deaths are concerned, it is yet to be ascertained whether they were killed by security forces or not. And that's where I would like to differ with Deepak. That is one thing. As far as political dynasties are concerned, it is actually not really a very new it's not a new concept or new thing. If you you know, study most of our you know, constituencies, you will find that it is normally the father and then the son, if not the nephew or the son-in-law or somebody within the family, the clan.
Just to add to what you're saying, it's not a new concept across the country as well. It's happening all over the country and not just in Nagaland. Please continue.
Yeah. So yes, so it is not new. It's happening. It has been happening in Nagaland also. Now, you asked me, you know, especially what is happening. And then, you know, we've been seeing our MLAs rushing off to Kaziranga every other day for every little crisis. You know, I mean, people are disgusted. People don't have anything more to say, or rather, there are no more words to say at the disgust, the disappointment, the anger, the rage, and of course, the agony of what's happening to us, the people. And then, what has, you know, aggravated the whole situation was the collapse of that bridge yesterday at River Chate.
Right, yes.
And 4 people died and many more were injured. And it is possible, our Deputy Commissioner has said that it is possible there'll be more casualties. And they are still working at, you know, trying to retrieve all the human and other losses.
Sure.
So, you see, yes, the cabinet has sent condolence. The Roads and Bridges Minister has taken responsibility. And everybody, you know, they are making the right noise. But the fact is, it sort of, you know, it is very ironic that the collapse of the bridge has sort of, you know, it's the collapse of the whole state.
Okay, the collapse of the whole state is what you're suggesting. You know, I'm going to pick on that point and take it forward with Deepak Dewan. You know, is this the last thing that Nagaland really wanted? Because of all the things that it has seen over the last few months with the Bunds, with the Naga blockade and everything else that is attached to it, clearly this is the last thing that the people of Nagaland needed.
Well, it's very unfortunate, you know. I think the people really have lost hope. I mean, but at the same time, they have no choice. People keep on changing the parties.
You know, on that note, is there a void created now for a new party maybe to crop up over the next few months and maybe make an impact in the next assembly elections?
Only last month only, I think in June, another new party was formed, headed by Mr. Chingwang Konyak. I would like to ask Monalisa about that. Monalisa, what do the people think about this new party, which was launched last month?
Before the new party, the latest party that came up, sometime in June, which is the Democratic Progressive Party. Last year, another party had come up, the Nagaland Congress. Okay, and both these parties are mainly manned and literally manned by, you know, politicians who were in the numerous parties that we have, the Congress.
Okay, so they're just basically offshoots and nothing else is what you're suggesting.
Yeah,
so nothing really is happening on that front as well. So there's no real change on the ground. You know, I'm running out of time, so that's why I'll have to cut you short there. I'm sorry. But Professor, close the show for us with your concluding remarks. What's likely to happen next? Is it the end of this crisis, or is this going to continue for a few more?
The only solution is to follow the Bombay case, as you began the program with. 15, if there is a floor test, that will be excellent. And the present crisis, if we want to really avert it, because there is an election next year, is another government formation. Whatever form it may take, that is the prime need of the hour.
Okay, yes, quick close.
Unconfirmed reports that the trial of strength has been deferred because of the president's poll. It's not confirmed yet, but I think it may be deferred.
Okay.
I'm hoping against hope that the political crisis will get resolved. Because, you know, nobody wants to break a political party when the elections are
just around the corner.
Yes, around the corner.
Yeah.
and that would be the best for Nagaland, because, you know, Monalisa is right. You know, outside forces are there. Dimapur city itself is a good example of how outside forces operate within and with the Naga society.
Sure. All right. On that note, we'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Balmiki, Prasad, Singh, Deepak, Dewan, Subrata, Mukherjee and Monalisa, thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have today. See you again next time.